This is one of those, off the cuff videos that once in a while I'll probably dabble into. Hardware Unboxed. I don't know if you guys know, that's a YouTube channel that does a lot of, videos concerning hardware, CPUs and GPUs specifically. They do a lot of metrics and they do a really clean job. In my opinion, probably one of the clearest that you can see a CPU or a GPU actually working in many cases with a metric driven approach. They were talking about Intel and AMD CPUs and some of the challenges that Intel CPUs are actually, experiencing. And this is a post that they just put up very, very interesting post. It's just a few minutes ago. They wrote, "It's interesting hearing from pro players who use X3D chips in their personal gaming PCs, but then have to use Intel CPUs on LAN and find them too slow. Rups, who is a professional CS2 Counter-Strike player, had to use a 285K for a CS2 tournament. For those of you who may be wondering what a 285K is, it's one of the Intel CPUs that just came out. I think it was supposed to pretty much run neck to neck with the 9800X3D for a CS2 tournament and couldn't believe how slow it was. Peterbot, who is the best Fortnite player, uses a 9800X3D at FNCS Globals. They ran a i7 13700KS, and he was shocked by how slow they are. Maybe these tournaments need the Intel overclockers to come in and make them as fast as X3D chips. Faster even, because I'm constantly told that's a thing you can do. By the way, multiple 13700K systems also crashed during the tournament. All were stock. Intel often sponsors these events, so it makes it appear as though pro players use Intel CPUs. Pretty smart. AMD needs to up their game in that regard." And so Rob said, "To be honest, it's tough to agree. A massive problem is still the FPS. For me, the game is on anything else but a 9800X3D, and not every tournament has that. Many issues still, but this is a big one." This is Rob's talking about this issue and replying to someone about, one of these particular conversations. And Hardware Unboxed says this. This is, I think, the most critical piece of this. He says, "Pro players don't care about hardware brands. Unless they sponsor them, of course. But even then, they just want to use the best hardware possible, as that gives them the best chance of success. So you won't see them fanboying for a brand for reasons." Now, again, if they are under sponsorship, you're going to see something of that nature. I think this is a very critical and important piece of a conversation that we've been having lately in terms of how gamers, for the most part, will see their gaming. If there is something inherent to the advantage for them to actually play video games, that's how they're going to go with the video games. You can apply this kind of a principle to the pro player, to the casual player, to the regular player, to the former hardcore player, to the hardcore player. They are very much interested in how the game is going to benefit them the most. I've talked about how in competitive events, fighting game players of Street Fighter had actually raised complaints about the PlayStation 5 giving them problems. And this is not a video to basically dunk on PlayStation players. Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of PC guys that are out here. In fact, some of them still continue to commit blasphemy and use Intel. Mr. BDB, I'm talking about you. Yes. And so, we got to go ahead and point out that, it doesn't really matter. Some people like Intel. If they like Intel, they'll use Intel. And, I'm sure that people who are using Intel for the most part are probably not competing at these, or in these FPS games. And the performance is, acceptable to them in how it runs. I don't think I could tell you how, what would be different from a 287K versus, a 9800X3D. I don't think I'll be able to see the difference, right? Even if one of them might be giving me maybe say a 20, 30, 40%, FPS boost. Once I've hit 90 FPS, I can't tell you what else is going on. I mean, you can feel it sometimes, but it's not necessarily the case. So what is advantageous for the gamer is definitely what they're going to use. This is one of the reasons I've decided that I'm probably going to stick with 1080 for a minute. I want to do 1080 at the highest refresh rate that I can probably get games to run. And that's perfectly fine with me. 1440 is a thing. Yeah, it's all right, but it hasn't really blown me away. 4K has been really beautiful, but 4K is just too expensive to start keeping up with this facade. So I'm just more interested in the game more than anything else. And that's the same thing you're going to see with a lot of gamers on the consoles that they play. What is it giving them? And this is a very interesting lesson that I actually went ahead and, had to learn, especially when we were talking about the different, pieces of gaming in terms of PC and console and all of the above, and seeing and learning that console gamers actually do enjoy playing their games where their games are. They're not interested in a lot of the other, fiascos that come with things, which, in some cases they could be somewhat attractive. Nothing wrong with that, right? So again, this is something that I see a lot of gamers going. Now, in the business side, I am very much convinced that Xbox recognized this as well. This is a whole different layer, right? That gamers love to play where they choose to play. When you kind of take into account the entire business paradigm that this is how things are going, it starts to help you see things differently, right? So this also helped inform my own understanding of the gaming industry and having these conversations, making builds. And one of the reasons that this video actually got, stirred up was I remember, I think last year I was doing a few builds to show guys that play on consoles like, hey man, if you want to play on PC, it's not really that complicated. You can make all these different kinds of builds. You can do small form factor. I made those videos in November of last year, right? But a lot of guys are like, yeah, I get it. I understand these are the advantages, but my preference is just the console. And I'm not forcing anybody. I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, that small form factor PC that I build, I'm basically repurposing it to now be a PC for one of the kids, right? And so now it's, I just installed Windows on it. It's actually right here. Listen to it. It has one of these small form factor metal cases. I got a really, good deal on it on Amazon. So it's going to be going to one of the kids. So y'all, are not interested in doing all that intricacy stuff. And that's perfectly fine. You choose, and you have chosen where you want to play your games. So it then stands to actually make sense that publishers are now following you down this road. Where did you say you're playing again? Oh, you like playing on Nintendo? I'll meet you there. What did you say you like playing your games again on Xbox? We're going to find you there. Did you say you like playing your games on PC? Oh, we're going to find you there. Because they understand this very, very interesting predicament. Anything else, right? Anything else that's out there trying to maybe come out and, make it seem like this is some kind of a special deal. And no. It's for other purposes. It's for ulterior purposes that don't necessarily, resonate with, software sales. For instance, when, say, a third-party, developer makes a game and a platform holder goes ahead and bribes them and says, hey, keep that game in ours. I said bribes. That's what it is. Keep our game on our platform, man. We're going to give you so-and-so concession. It's all in, it's all in some kind of way to just hurt their own competitor. It's not in any way to benefit you, the gamer. Some people make it sound like, oh, yeah, this is supposed to. No. Because gamers have already chosen where they want to play. So holding those games away from where they want to play is to force them to change behavior. That's one of the reasons that makes it really anti-consumer on that front. It's that simple. Now, if you make your own game and you decide that, this is what you want to do with it, right? Sure, that's fine. But don't be fooled when majority of gamers find that as something that they have to go ahead and resist. Because, yeah, you tried to change their behavior and you tried to force change their behavior. You didn't even try to do it nicely, right? And so this has basically been one of the biggest challenges a lot of companies are facing. This is what Square Enix faced. And they decided, no, we're going to go back and meet the gamers where the gamers are. So looking at it from this perspective, from a conversation about CPUs and pro players versus casuals and, console users, depending on the platform, you can already see where things are going. It's at the, behest and at the, at the own users, volition that they get to change their platforms and they don't need anybody to force them to do it. Trying to force users into a specific behavior almost always backfires. It almost always does. Thanks for watching the video. Talk to me in the comment section. Peace out.